Updated December 4, 2017 151,047. A federal government frontbencher has labelled calls from NSW Deputy Premier John Barilaro for the Prime Minister to resign the dribblings of some obscure politician. Mr. Barilaro has stood by his calls for Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull to resign, despite being widely condemned by senior coalition figures including Federal Nationals leader Barnaby Joyce. On Friday, Mr. Barilaro sent shockwaves through the coalition when he told Sydney Talkback host Alan Jones that Mr. Turnbull lacked leadership and should resign by Christmas because he could not win the next election. Attorney General George Brandis was today asked about the comments during Senate question time. The first time he'd even heard of Mr. Barilaro was on Friday morning when he burst forth into lurid light, courtesy of the Alan Jones radio program, he said. He went on to label the comments the dribblings of some obscure politician who nobody outside of NSW has ever heard of. Free advice is worth what you pay for it. I think Mr. Barilaro's musings are worth considerably less than that. Mr. Turnbull previously accused the Deputy Premier of trying to ingratiate himself with Talkback host Jones, while Mr. Joyce said Mr. Barilaro's comments were harmful. Barilaro stands by controversial comments. She went to ground immediately after making the comments, but this morning told AM he was not backing away from the position. What I've said Friday stands, Mr. Barilaro said. My comments were a reflection of what I had heard on the ground. Mr. Barilaro said he would not be elaborating further on his call for Mr. Turnbull to resign and refused to say who he thought should replace him as Prime Minister. There was no commentary in relation to alternatives, no commentary into who should take the reins, he said. NSW Premier Gladys Berejiklian was forced to put out a statement strongly distancing herself from Mr. Barilaro's position. Mr. Barilaro would not say whether he warned the Premier before he made the comments. He is currently acting Premier while Ms. Berejiklian visits China. I can tell you, before the Premier left for overseas I have had conversations with her and she stands by me being Deputy Premier of NSW, he said. Some commentators have called on Mr. Barilaro to resign as leader of the NSW Nationals. Topics: Federal Government, State Parliament, Federal Starty Issues, Government and Politics, Queen Bee 2620, NSW, Canberra 2600, Sydney 2000. First posted December 4, 2017 100,729.